Welcome to Your Thoughts, Your Reality with Michael Cole, the podcast that shines a compassionate light on the journey of veterans battling through life's challenges. Michael is a dual elite certified neuroencoding specialist in coaching and keynote training presentations, dedicated to guiding military veterans as they navigate the intricate pathways of post-deployment life. Join him as we delve into the profound realm of neuroencoding science, empowering these brave individuals to conquer universal battles, procrastination, self-doubt, fear, and more. Together, let's uncover the strength within you to re-engage with families and society, forging a new path forward.
Hello, everybody. Hey, so today, Dianna and I have been trying to do this for a little bit, and magnificence has happened and we're here. So I'm super excited. So Dianna Sullivan specializes in energy healing modalities such as shamanic healing, Reiki, and access bars, guiding individuals through deep emotional and spiritual healing. She has helped people launch businesses, attract soulmates, and achieve physical healing by addressing the root causes of their struggles, which is so important. She unlocks new possibilities, releasing energetic blockages that may be holding them back in relationships, health, and especially financial success. She has years of experience teaching how unresolved past traumas, this is what we're going to talk about today, can subtly yet powerfully affect every aspect of life. And, she's just a rock star. Let's just call it what it is, shall we? So, Dianna, why don't you tell a little bit more about yourself that people that don't know you?
Sure. Thank you, Michael. I'm honored to be here. Thanks so much for having me. And I love that we stuck with it and we got to today. So that's perfect.
Amen.
As you mentioned a lot of things already. So I'm trained in different healing modalities. I also have been a single mom since my kids were 1 and 3, who has been a business person in the background. So I had a successful appraisal management company that I ran for 15 years and sold that because in the background I was working on the healing modalities and coaching and different things, and that became my passion. So I sold my company a year and a half ago for $2.5 million, which was quite fun and all of that. And now I get to do what I love, which is help people.
That's fantastic. And, your story is very cool because of the success and how you help people. When you were talking about it before, and I think it was with Carolyn as well. They were just talking about it with you. Carolyn Azuna, we're in the same group, guys, just so you know what I'm talking about, as well as with the Neuroencoding Institute. It's just really cool how you change that, what you're doing into what you do now. So will you talk a little bit more about, what started you down the path, if you will, into what, you love and, fulfillment with what you're doing now?
Yeah. So I was not in a very good place. I was working my butt off and I was in a really crappy relationship, verbally abusive, sometimes physically abusive, things like that. And he was actually in a rehab place, and I went to family weekend and I met someone who started me off on self-awareness and actually taking a look at, I'm attracting these things into my life. So if I'm attracting them into my life and they suck, I can also switch that and attract things that are fun and delicious and yummy and all of the things. So that's where it began. It began because of something that was really crappy.
Thank you for sharing and being vulnerable, obviously. It's so interesting how when we get into a bad place, whether it be emotionally, psychologically, physically, burnout, whatever it is, and we are like, enough. And it's weird how, and we're going to talk about it, obviously, how the new thing gets attracted to you when you say enough, and you create that leverage for yourself. And I want something different. And then here you are, right? I mean, it's really beautiful. For me, I've had that multiple times in my many years, if I wanted to go back, right? But if we hadn't been in the place with our construction company saying, you know what, this isn't doing it for us anymore, and I'm just done after 53 years of being in the same industry, I would never join the Neuroencoding Institute, and I wouldn't be here with you right now.
Right.
So it's really magical, when at the time, most people think, my life's ending, right? We go to all of this horrible stuff, and what can be birthed out of that?
The
I think
gifts.
it's really beautiful. Yeah. So with that said, before we really get started, top right-hand corner of the screen, there's a blue QR code. Please scan that QR code. It takes you to empowerperformancestrategies.com for people listening on the podcast forums later. Again, empowerperformancestrategies.com. There are ebooks, free resources that I've written. There are Facebook groups for both veterans and their families. There's trainings, there's all kinds of stuff, and of course, other episodes of the podcast. So check it out, be part of the community, and be part of the mission. So with that said, let me start with what signs should someone be looking for in their past is still really happening in their present, whether that be trauma or shock or whatever the case is.
Your sound isn't coming through clear.
Okay, let me try that again. Is it better now?
It is. Thank you.
I live in the foothills, so sometimes my internet gets a little wonky. You're like, I don't know what he just said. Help.
I was going to try to wing it, but I thought I'd ask.
That's all good. What signs should someone be looking for that indicate their past is still shaping their present, whether that be trauma or just thoughts, whatever the case may be? Let's really start there, because I think that's kind of the beginning of the healing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Really just taking an honest look at yourself. Do you feel peaceful and calm? Are you anxious? Do you have anxiety? Are you able to respond as opposed to react when situations happen? Are you self-aware? Which, we're not really taught self-awareness. So it is a challenging thing. I mean, I even find I've been doing these things for 10 years. And sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I had massive anxiety and I didn't even realize I had it,
Yeah.
because it just masks itself in certain ways. But, is your life really working? Is it, are you getting the things that you desire and that you want,
Yeah.
or are you kind of stressed out? Are you able to be present and be in the present moment, or are you always somewhere else in your head?
And I love that you said that. Let's kind of dive into that, and I call it the spin cycle, right? And a lot of times we just don't even realize we're there,
I like
and
it.
someone will say, hey, what was up with you yesterday, or whatever the case may be. And this literally just happened recently. So it's when you're in that spin cycle, or in your thoughts, in your head, and like you're saying right now, being unresourceful. What are some of the I know my neuron coding tricks, and I know Tony Robbins stuff and all those different things, but what do you suggest to people to say, hey, you know what, you can snap out of it and live your best life, if you will?
Mm-hmm. I think one of the big things is really to just, number one, have the intention. We have to be intentional about it, or we don't do it. We can get lost and we mask it. Our egos are pretty good at hiding it and masking it. So if you're busy being busy and you're just too busy and you can't take a minute and you're too busy and you're too, it's that, stop. That's the first thing you can do is stop, create some intentionality about, I'm going to slow down. I'm going to slow down. I don't have to do all of the things, and they don't all need to get done, immediately. And it doesn't have to be perfect either. A lot of times people are striving for perfection, and it's not something that exists, and they feel like they're really, I don't remember. I want to say it was Joseph McClendon III who said, if you're striving for perfection, you're like at a really low vibration. That sounds more like something Carolyn said. I'm not sure, but when you're striving for that, it's a low vibration because it's something that's unattainable.
Yeah.
So instead, let go of that idea of perfection, let go of the busyness, and just stop. Create some intentionality. You know what? I love my family. I love my children. So maybe it's more important for me to sit down and just hang out with them tonight than it is to clean the bathroom of the house, or, whatever it is that you had.
Yeah,
And
I love that.
when we're doing those things, we're just blocking. A lot of the times we're blocking feelings that we don't want to feel. You can't block the good. You can't block the good, bad stuff and have the good stuff. You're either blocking all of it or you're blocking none of it. So if there's feelings you're avoiding by being busy, once you do stop, some of that stuff's going to come up. and you get to greet it with love and care, and love all of those parts of yourself.
I love that you say that. I want to talk more about that. Look, the questions are already out the door. Just organic conversations with my curiosity. Welcome. So when you're having that, and it could be your body, feeling worn out and not, you're not listening to it, and or family or whatever the case may be. What are some things that, okay, hey, I realize something's not right. I'm anxious. I'm feeling pissed off. I'm in the spin cycle. I can't get out of it. What are some of the fastest ways that you can think of to snap people out of it, so they can get back on track and take that break and get what's important to them back in their life?
Breath work, of course, would be the first thing, and it's the easiest because you can do it no matter where you are. If people aren't familiar, box breathing, I think, is one of the easiest. Count to 4, going in through your nose, hold it for 4, 4 out, hold that, and then you picture it as a box as you go through.
Yeah, and I just learned through that from Gary Brecka. I did not know about it till then.
Really? Yeah.
It's a great one. It's a great one because you're focusing on something else.
Right. Yeah. It brings your focus, because I could tell you to meditate, but if you've not meditated before, this idea of, or even if you have, sometimes it's hard too. This idea of quieting your mind just doesn't work. Right. So that's the easiest. The next thing that's probably my favorite is to go for a walk. When you walk, it actually, it helps to process through the things that are stuck in there. It just automatically works to process. And if you can be around, in nature, I live on 34 acres. So I get to go out and walk around here every day, and it's just beautiful. And I mean, for me, I love to touch the trees and feel the energy of the trees. And, some people think that's weird. And if that's weird for you, you don't have to do that, but just being around them is really helpful too, so getting out and walking.
Yeah, I love that, because anytime you have any physical exercises, mentally, you're going to come out of it in a better state. It releases hormones and all that fun stuff. So it's, feeling the trees, that kind of stuff. So let me go back 2 steps. I get it. Okay, first of all, I get it, because how often, I don't do it enough, but I do it. In fact, I did it a couple days ago. Going outside, take your shoes off, put your feet in the grass, and grounding, whether that be through your feet, through the tree, feeling that energy, whatever it is. But how beautiful it is to sit there for a minute, be intentional, like you're saying. And I love that you brought that up, and really just be present there with yourself and nature, and slow down for a second, whether you're walking or just grounding, whatever the case may be, and listen to the birds around you, the squirrels. I think I had Aaron Lloyd on here. We talked about the turkeys, because if you have turkeys, we're on property as well. And so, you have all this little life going around you. When you slow down and really see it, hear it, and feel it, it really centers you. That could be in the city too. I mean, you got things going around too, but when you're not focusing on yourself, you're focusing on other things, beautiful things. It can be really empowering. Right.
And using all your senses too, because a lot of times we just, we're just looking around so much with our eyes, but, what do you hear, and what can you touch, and even the taste of things sometimes, and, all of the things, and just taking it in. Yeah. Definitely.
Absolutely love that. And it's we don't take enough time to do it. I mean, I think you could do it 24 hours a day and it wouldn't be enough time.
Right. Yeah.
Goodness knows no one does that.
And really one of the other things too is prioritizing fun. Prioritizing things that you enjoy doing. You're not too busy to find some fun time. If you are, you got to realize that if you do find some fun time, the things that are busy, they're going to go easier, and they're going to go smoother, and they're going to go faster, because you're going to approach them from a different energy, from a different angle, and it's just going to.
I love that you said that, because when you do focus on those positive things, gratefulness or whatever, and you're doing some of those fun things, it resets you. It absolutely resets you, and the other things will be there, but if you're going and doing it in a different emotional state, a different mindset, maybe you'll even have fun doing it. I don't know.
Yeah. It is. It's a game changer. I mean, you can even kind of make a game and have fun doing dishes. You can actually enjoy that.
Give me a game with dishes. I'm excited to hear this.
I don't know if I have one. That just
Yeah,
came
I'm
up
playing
then.
with you.
Everything could be a game, right? Something fun.
I'm absolutely playing with you. How you stack them, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's actually a funny thing in my household. But no one can stack the dishwasher like me. No one can stack the drying rack. So it has become a little bit of a competition.
There you go. There you go. Celebration being the reward, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Which
So,
is
so let's. Oh, go ahead. You're gonna say something.
another thing would be gratitude. So gratitude, having a gratitude practice, whatever it might be. You could do gratitude journaling. You can. I have some friends that we send each other 3 things we're grateful for in text every day. And it's super powerful. And sometimes I'm like, going about my day and just and then I get that text popping and I'm like, oh, that's right. I get to be grateful. This person's grateful for this. And I like that one. And I'm going to add, and all of a sudden everything shifts.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I'll text you in a little while as soon as we're done. I'm grateful we did the podcast. No, I do love that, and having that community that does the same things to bring you up in the middle of the day when you're stuck in the normal world, if you will. That's powerful. I love that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely love it. So let's kind of dive into some trauma stuff. We're a little over halfway done with the show, so if we can, let's kind of dive into that. So as far as trauma, different people have different aspects or thoughts of what trauma is. Will you give us some of your thoughts on trauma in general?
It's interesting because it could be something so intense or it could be something small, but sometimes it has just as much of a lasting effect.
Yeah.
From someone being told they were an accident because their birth wasn't planned, that can be lifelong and they don't even realize it, but they never feel like they fit in because they were told that. To someone experiencing something awful, cancer, things like that, or people who have been in war, those are awful things to have seen.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some of and really trauma is an event happened. It's the definition we gave the event.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we get stuck in that, right? And we relive it. The trauma happened generally once. Our remembering it continues and continues, and that's why it's so powerful for us.
Right.
So talk about your thoughts on that first, and then let's talk about ways to mitigate it. To bring yourself out of it so you can thrive instead of trying to survive.
Mm-hmm. I love what you just said too. That's a huge thing for me, is getting people out of survival and into thriving. And I think number one is that you have to realize that you deserve it. Everyone deserves to thrive. And a lot of times because of certain things, we don't feel like we deserve that. And so, if you walk into a room, it's much easier to be part of a conversation where we complain and we don't get what we want, all of these things. So you have to kind of be willing to step outside of the norm, and hopefully we make this the norm at some point, that we're talking about wonderful things instead of the crap. But, when you're in something where it's playing over and over and you're in that loop, you have to do something to interrupt the pattern, right? So our computers, our brains, they have this thing where when we experience those things, it keeps going and it keeps playing and it keeps playing, and we get stuck there. So how do you get unstuck, right? You have to interrupt the pattern. And I'm sure you probably talk about the stop technique frequently, so pattern interrupt. And then do you want me to share about the stop technique, or do you?
You can do the stop technique or any kind of pattern interrupt. Just because we've talked about it before, not.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't say that everybody hasn't seen every episode, but there's a possibility. So please,
Right.
please share.
So if you're doing the stop technique, basically you're gonna feel bad on purpose. So whatever that feeling is that happens for you, I'm going to use the example of someone falling. Maybe it's someone who's fallen off a ladder and it's replaying, or it's something you saw you could go to something you saw in the war, because that's probably something more that's prevalent here. So it just keeps replaying. So you're going to sit down and you're going to feel bad on purpose. You're going to feel that feeling. And I know you probably think I'm nuts right now because you don't want to feel the feeling, but that's part of the problem. The feeling wants to have its moment. It wants to be felt, and we keep resisting it, and what we resist persists. So it's going to keep coming up, keep coming up. So you give it a second and you feel it, and then you're going to, on purpose, feel it and then pattern interrupt. So you actually say the word stop. And then if you're sitting, you stand up, you move your body, and you could say whatever resonates with you. And maybe it's, I am magnificent. And you just, because you want to replace, you're creating a space. So you want to replace something in that space. And what you're going to replace it with is something that's wonderful. So, you remind yourself that you're magnificent, you're wonderful. And maybe part of that whole thing too is some judgment you have about yourself and what you did in this situation or something. So that's taking care of that too. And then you sit down and you do it again. So you do that a good 5 times, and you do it 3 different times a day, different things. I like to go 10, it depends how hard it's wired in, sometimes I'll even go 10 times. So you're practicing it. So you're practicing a pattern interrupt, you're practicing feeling good. And at the end too, we want to say, yes, because you're celebrating what you just did. So you would do that multiple times. 3 times a day is what I like to do. And, you want to commit to doing this 10 days in a row.
Yeah.
And
I love it. And I just want to preface something, if we can, is it's an exercise. And so the more you do it, the more you build the muscle. Just like if you're to go to gym, you don't go in the gym one time, come out and say, I don't look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, I failed. You have to do the exercise. And the more you do it, the bigger the muscle begins to build and the easier it is. And then what happens at the end? Well, actually, Dianna, why don't you tell me why this works? I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. So you're rewiring your brain. So when it actually comes up in the moment, you're just driving down the road at some average day, and all of a sudden, here it comes. Here's this film that plays. That crazy lady said to do this thing, and I've been doing it, but it's not helping, right? So that's going to happen. And when it happens, the thing that you would notice in that moment was you caught it. So rather than go, why is it coming up? Why isn't it gone yet? The first step is going to be that you're going to catch it. So now that I'm live in the moment of feeling like crap because it's happening, I get to do the stop technique again. So in the moment, and I've done it in the car when I have like kids in the car and their friends. And so in those moments, I'm doing it in my head. I prefer to do it out loud, and it works best out loud. But if I have a bunch of people around or something, then I would do it in my head. And then the next time it comes up, I didn't judge it. Now I just went right to the stop technique. Yeah. And then over time, it's not going to happen anymore.
Yeah.
It loses its power over you.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Thank you for going through the whole thing, because here's the interesting things. Everybody does it a little bit different. So it's good to hear, your perspective on it being done. And that's the way we were taught. Just FYI, everybody. So, one of the other things that we do, talk about doing it in the car. So something I teach people as well, that if you're in a meeting, you're in the car, you're whatever the case may be, you do it in your head, but instead of standing up, you just look up at the ceilings, put a big smile on your face, and it automatically releases hormones and snapping you out of it. Because all the muscles in your face, when you smile, it releases the good hormones automatically. Your brain doesn't know any different. And so when you do that in the car, or whatever the case may be, road rage or whatever it is, it's really a magical process. So thank you for going through all that. Right? I appreciate it. Yeah. So let's see, where were we before we got there? So trauma. So we're catching ourselves, right? And so it's like, okay, I did the stop technique, and I've been doing this 16 times a day because Dianna and Mike said the more you do it, the better I'm going to get at it. So I'm really good at it. I'm really good at snapping myself out of being in that place of starting the spin cycle, whatever the case may be. So where do you go from there?
Well, smile would be one thing, right? Like you just said, because that's releasing the endorphins, and also celebrating when you do catch it, and celebrating the little wins that you have in your life. I think a big piece of trauma too is once we have that cloud over our head, everything looks cloudy, you know? And so even doing more things to release that cloud that's over your head, doing the things we talked about before, like, you know, planning in some nature, planning in some grounding, those types of things are super important. Also, when thoughts come in of, you know, oh, maybe this could happen. Again, those things want to be heard. So if you acknowledge it and say, maybe it is, maybe it could happen, but there's also other things that could happen, and just kind of open yourself up to possibilities.
Yeah, I love that. And the more you do, the how do I say this? I'm going to say the easier it is to deal with these things, right? Because trauma doesn't just go away because you say I want it to, right?
Right.
In fact, the more you think about the trauma and the more you're focused on the trauma, the worse the trauma will become.
Right.
Because of that, unless you do it in a positive way, that you're breaking down the trauma. So I'd like to, again, where are we at on time? Okay, sorry, I lost where my timer was. So can you give us some tips and thoughts on how to break free of the trauma, to change the definition of what it actually meant to that person? And everybody's different. The patterns are very similar, but the stories are different.
Right, right. And interesting you use the word story, because we all create a story for what it meant, right? So we have something happen and we have this story behind it. And honestly, there's so much research done that the way we play it back in our head is actually worse than the way that it actually happened in most cases.
Yep.
So, you know, just knowledge of that. Also, when we have these emotions that we have, they want to be felt. They get to be flushed through, let's say, right? So they get to come out of us, and there are healthy ways to do that. So if I'm feeling angry about, you know, a situation that happened, to sit down and allow myself, in most cases, it's like literally 90 seconds. You don't want to get lost in it, you know? So sit down and feel that anger and let it out of your body, you know? And this is probably not something you're going to do with a car full of kids, but you know.
I felt that. I think you really just released something.
I've gotten pretty good at it, you know, or cry. And it's so funny because, you know, there's so many people who take pride in that they haven't cried in years, and it's not healthy, you know. So you have to be able and willing to let the emotions flow through, and be kind and gentle to yourself in the process. And, you know, doing it by yourself is great. If you have, you know, a coach or someone to help you, even better. But your feelings for yourself are the big thing too. So loving yourself through that and taking away the judgment. There's so much judgment,
Amen.
you know.
Amen.
So the other thing is, and it's probably a little bit down the road, is can you reframe it? You know, so can I reframe it, and can I see that somehow this trauma was good in my life? I'll give you an example. For me, you know, I mean, we had it before. For me, I was in an abusive relationship. I'm thankful for that at this point, because I'm doing this and I'm helping people now. You know, I've had a good bit of trauma in my life, and I've gotten to here because of it. So taking that, you know, because some people will be like, how can you say that was a good thing? You know, well, and the other thing is acceptance. You know, it happened, and we spend so much time wanting to change the past, and that past has such a hold on us because we keep wanting to change it and we can't. So if you accept that it is what it is, and you kind of put it in the past, and you keep your focus forward, and you keep your focus on actually caring how you feel and doing things that feel good, and they'll tie together, because we're like magnets. So we just keep attracting what we're putting out. So if I'm putting feel good stuff out, I'm getting feel good stuff back.
Yeah, I love that. You know, it's so funny how we look at our past and we're trying to escape our past. You know, I learned a long time ago, and I just want to add to this, talking about our own stories for a second, is my past is what made me who I am today. You know, those bad things, if you can change that perspective and reframe, like Dianna said, reframe it into I learned from that. It didn't happen to me, it happened for me.
Right. I love those.
And I am who I am now, and damn, I'm proud of who I am. Am I perfect? No, but guess what? I'm going to learn from that too, and I'm going to be even better tomorrow.
Yep.
And if you can switch those traumas and those things into something that it made me stronger, for instance, I learned how to do this because of it. I learned there's resources and I help other people because of it. You know, there's so many things that we block ourselves of goodness that comes out of bad things, or we think they're bad at the time, but really they're gifts. And it can be a horrible thing. And if you look and you have an open mind, you can find the good in it. You can find something that made you better from it if you're open to it. So I really love that you brought that up.
I think that's huge, and throwing into that too, forgiveness. And I think one of the biggest people that we get to forgive is ourselves.
First.
You know, and being on here, maybe there's people who, you know, shot someone during war and things like that. And I can only imagine how that feels, you know, because I haven't experienced that. But forgive yourself, love yourself. You know, you can't change it, but you can love yourself. And if you're punishing yourself, you're typically punishing those around you too, and you're not doing things that you otherwise could be. So forgive yourself and then love yourself through that. And I think forgiving ourselves is the hardest person to forgive.
Yeah, I love that you said that, and it's also, you know, a lot of veterans. It's I wasn't there for my buddy. I wasn't there for the soldier next to me. Something happened, but you know what? It's something happened, and you know. And I deal with this a lot with veterans. And so I always tell people forgiveness is number one. And like you said, Dianna, it's perfect. It starts with yourself. You have to forgive yourself. In fact, I just had a conversation yesterday with somebody about this. Here's my perspective on that. And I know we're already over time, but let's go. We own the place. So if you can look back in your life and you can say, and I think everybody can do this at some point in their life, I was doing the best I could for who I was at the time.
That's perfect.
I was doing the best I could for who I was at the time. For yourself first. And here's a powerful one, and I just got to chill. Michelle Odette Green calls them God bumps. So,
I've had a lot today. I've had a lot.
Amen. But if you can look yourself in the mirror and say that to yourself, it's very powerful. I mean, look in your eyes and your soul and do it. It's okay to cry. It's okay to freaking feel emotion. So just try it. And then celebrate you did it every time. Pat yourself on the back, literally dance, do whatever you need to, but celebrate it to, again, release those good hormones and stuff like that. But if we can start there, and then, like you said, Dianna, to start with yourself, because I think that is the most powerful, and then move to other people, other things, whether it be, oh, I didn't do that right with my kids and I would have done it differently. Well, again, you know that now. You didn't know it then. And then the last thing I want to say about it is, how many times have you said, oh man, if I would have known that then? You weren't supposed to. You weren't open for it yet. And give that to yourself. You know it now. Use it now, because now's the gift. So sorry, I went on a rant. Sorry.
That's okay.
I think it was a good one, though. I think it was good information. So thank you. Dianna, how do people reach out to you if they want to talk to you, and so on like that?
Yeah, so I have a Facebook group they could join if they wanted to. It's Soaring Heights Business and Life Coaching. My website is soaringheightscoaching.com, and my email is soaringheights@myyahoo.com.
I love Soaring Heights. That's fantastic. Absolutely.
I want to take you to Soaring Heights.
Absolutely love it. And if you can, I know Susan is on here. Thank you, Susan, by the way, my love, for adding stuff in and putting stuff in for people. But Dianna, if there's any other ones you want to put in that we didn't catch, please feel free to put in all social media stuff. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
And we're almost done here. We need 3 tips to get veterans and their families further faster.
Be gentle. Be really gentle with yourself. That is key. Let go of all judgment. If you can start living without judgment, switch right and wrong for working or not working. This works for me. This doesn't work for me instead. And number 3, celebrate, celebrate, celebrate. Even the little teeny tiny wins, everybody's on their own path and in a different place, and your nervous system loves it when you celebrate. And then again, that magnet comes in, so it's wanting more things to celebrate. So celebrate. And if you feel like it's gloating or something, come on to my Facebook group, and I would love for you to celebrate the heck out of everything.
Absolutely love it. Yeah, celebration, man. It is the thing we do probably the least that we should do the most. So thank you for saying that to our audience, and I soak that in all day long. So thank you. So with that said, everybody, guess what? We're done. We're 6 minutes over, but it was fantastic. Dianna, thank you so much for being on today. Time is the most precious resource we have as human beings. We don't get it back. Thank you for spending a few minutes of your life with us to spread knowledge and resources and things like that. We're so honored.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
All right, everybody, we're out of here.
Thank you for joining us on another insightful journey of Your Thoughts, Your Reality podcast with your host, Michael Cole. We hope the conversation sparked some thoughts that resonate with you. To dive deeper into empowering your thoughts and enhancing your reality, visit empowerperformancestrategies.com. Remember, your thoughts shape your reality, so make them count. Until next time, stay inspired and keep creating the reality you desire. Catch you on the next episode.